Presiding Officer, this debate should be a welcome opportunity to address the issues that contribute to child poverty. I'm afraid that what we might slip into very easily is a display of grievance, a wallowing of pessimism, and a talk more of symptoms than root causes, as I tried to intervene earlier to say. These root causes include intergenerational poverty, the breakdown of families, addiction, and inequality of opportunity, and worklessness and underemployment. People need help, and the most important help that is needed is a good job paying good wages. If he's very brief, because we just don't have time for a debate,
I was going to ask Stephen Kerr if he thinks indebtedness is a huge pressure, at least the breakdown in families, and perhaps the UK welfare regime might actually contribute to that indebtedness in the first place.
Stephen Kerr.
I will agree with him that that is a contributing factor to some of the situations families find themselves in. Here's what the Scottish Government's own most recent report on poverty and income inequality in Scotland 2019-22 states: having paid work is an effective way out of poverty. And those families where all adults are in full-time work have a low poverty risk. And rightly so. And I would qualify what the report says by adding that skilled paid work is better than unskilled work. And of course, higher pay is better than low pay. So we need to have an honest debate. We need to have an honest debate about the impact. I won't be able to take any more interventions. I do apologise. Everyone knows I love a debate, but I want to say what I have prepared to say. What we need to have is an honest debate about the impact of the pandemic on the global economy, on the Scottish economy, on Scottish society, and the devastating complication of the illegal Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. Because, frankly, we're kidding ourselves if we don't realise that the extended coronavirus restrictions that we applied in this country with a degree of rigour and longevity that other countries did not apply hasn't. It would be kidding ourselves if we don't know that it's had a deeply negative impact on our economy and our society. And that's despite the UK government committing to vast borrowing to support individuals and families through the furlough scheme, and businesses and other organisations through various other measures. But none of this was cheap. In fact, we borrowed more than £500 billion. And I don't believe that members of this Parliament can be economically illiterate enough not to understand that when you borrow such vast amounts of money, there will be a negative impact on the public finances. And I seem to recall that it was members of the SNP and the Labour Party who called the loudest for these interventions. How did they think it would all be paid for? And when the economic impact of the Russian invasion of Ukraine was felt in spiralling energy costs, was it not members of the SNP and the Labour Party who called the loudest for interventions in the retail energy market to support individuals and families and businesses to mitigate the impact of extraordinary exponential cost increases? And was it not a Conservative government that took unprecedented measures to intervene to support families and businesses? And this was also paid for by unprecedented borrowing. How did members think this was going to be paid for? Now, as I say, I hope that none of us are guilty of economic illiteracy. We know what the economic facts of life are. Perhaps we have had to learn them all over again as a country. You cannot keep borrowing and borrowing and still command the confidence of international markets. There comes a point when you must demonstrate your ability to service and repay the borrowings you have made. Who knew? We all did. And for a further example of the social impact that is being made manifest because of the pandemic, there is the steep rise in the incidence of violence and disruption in classrooms. Lockdown was irredeemably bad for our children and young people. They were the least likely to succumb to COVID-19, but they were arguably hit the most by the restrictions of lockdown. And there are now eons of research papers that show how negatively impacted children and young people were by lockdowns. So, what are the root causes of intergenerational poverty? A lack of equal opportunity, persistent worklessness in households and underemployment, and a deep pessimism that things are as they are and can never be changed and will always be what they are. And I am afraid, Deputy Presiding Officer, the biggest purveyors of that pessimism in this Parliament are the Scottish National Party. They are a party for pessimists with much to be pessimistic about, mired in scandal and reeking of corruption. We have a skills shortage. We have record vacancies. We have record levels of net migration. But Scotland doesn't benefit. Members might like to ask themselves, including the Minister who's interrupting me, why that is the case. We have people that are unemployed or underemployed, and yet we are turning our back on the very things that help root out and tackle the root causes of child poverty. We should be creating more apprenticeships, not rationing them. We should be funding technical education. We're not. We should be investing in our colleges. We're cutting them.
You need to conclude now,
and
Mr.
members of the SNP and the Labour Party offer only welfarism. It's not the solution. It's a mitigation.
You need to conclude,
The
Mr.
Conservatives offer a way out of poverty by tackling its root causes.
Call Ruth Maguire to be followed by